Welcome to Dorman Products Steering Position and Torque Sensor Replacement video. Please refer to the vehicle shop manual for specific removal and installation instructions. The video provided is a guide to help service the steering column assembly. Please pay special attention to all warnings and cautions outlined in the vehicle shop manual concerning the airbag and other safety systems involved in this repair. Make sure the steering wheel is set so that the wheels are pointing straight ahead before removing the steering column. To start this repair, the vehicle column needs to be removed from the vehicle. First thing you'll want to do is remove the upper sleeve from the actual sensor housing. It's important to note, as illustrated on the picture on the lower left of your screen, that there is a staggered tooth that provides the alignment for the inner shaft of the lower sensor housing to the upper sensor sleeve. Notice where the tip of the screwdriver is. That's the staggered tooth that you'll have to align to reassemble the unit. The first step that you'll want to accomplish is using a pair of snap ring pliers. Remove the snap ring that retains the outer sleeve of the sensor housing to the rest of the sensor housing. Squeezing the snap ring will allow it to be removed, and once it's removed, you can place it aside for reassembly, and then you can remove the inner sleeve of the sensor housing. At this point, you'll be able to see the sensor assembly that you'll be replacing. Carefully move the felt washer that's placed over the sensor so that you can access the snap ring that retains the sensor onto the shaft. Using a small screwdriver or a pick, remove the snap ring so that it releases the sensor from the inner shaft. Once that snap ring is removed, make sure to work it off without damaging the felt washer that's still on the shaft. And at that point, using a long screwdriver or your hands, you can remove the boot that protects the wiring harness as it exits the lower sensor housing. It just pops out of place, and you can set that off to the side with the snap ring. Now, using a long flathead screwdriver, apply pressure from the bottom side of the sensor, gently prying it up off the inner shaft. You may have to work from one side of the shaft to the other so that you can actually get it to pop off evenly, and once it's removed, you can lift it off the sensor housing, again making sure as you remove it completely off the assembly that the felt washer is not damaged. You can use a small screwdriver or a pick just to work that felt washer through the center of the sensor. Once the sensor is removed, get your new sensor. The new sensor will have a factory installed lock on it. At this point, you'll want to locate the arrow that's on the face of the sensor, as you can see on the lower left of your screen. You want to make sure that notch and arrow are lined up with the notch that is cut out of the actual inner steering shaft. Again, as you place the new sensor on this sensor housing assembly, you'll have to work that felt washer through, and then you can set it down onto the sensor housing. Again, ensuring that you've got that keyway lined up with the arrow on the sensor. If you need to rotate the actual shaft to be able to get the alignment, that is not a problem. That is recommended, as we're doing here. Just make sure that the lock is not removed from the sensor when you're doing that. Once the alignment's completed, apply pressure with both of your thumbs from right to left, alternating the pressure from one thumb to the other until the sensor is fully bottomed out. By turning the sensor on its side, you can see the placement of the sensor in relationship to the housing to make sure that you have pushed the sensor all the way down until it's locked in place. You will not have to replace the circlip. The new sensor comes with a circlip on it. At this point, you'll want to replace the boot harness, the protector that keeps the harness in place, and then remove the lock. At this point, you can remove the lock, and that's accomplished by squeezing between your two fingers and pulling straight up off the sensor, and that releases the sensor so that at this point it will be free to operate. You'll then want to get the outer sleeve, place it back onto the sensor housing, and reinstall the snap ring that we removed in the beginning of this procedure. You'll want to use snap ring pliers. Make sure you don't damage the sensor housing assembly. Once the sleeve is properly attached and the snap ring's attached, you'll want to make sure the staggered tooth on the inner shaft is lined up between the upper sleeve and the lower sleeve of the steering column assembly. If you're a little bit off, as you can see on the lower left of the screen, you can use your thumb and finger to turn the shaft just a little bit so that you can get it to lock in place. And once it's in place, you can collapse this column and reinstall it on the vehicle.